Last year, I made this video, and in that I said, I think we got lucky.
I think that my group got pretty lucky.
But this year, I think I want to switch where we can. All right, y'all, the time has come to discuss Electric Forest 2025, the pros, the cons, the camping options, the good, the bad, the ugly. All right, first disclaimer, apologize in advance if this is really echoey. I'm in a kind of like empty room that recently the carpet got torn up, so bear with me. Another disclaimer I feel like I have to say, because people, you'll never make them all happy. People are gonna be upset if I say everything was great. People are gonna be upset if I say everything was bad, and I'm somewhere in the middle. My disclaimer is that I'm speaking based on my experience and the experience that my group had this year, because that's the only experience that I can speak to. I would love to hear your experiences in the comments. If it was great, if it was horrible, if it was somewhere in the middle, drop in the comments what you experienced, if you can relate, if you can't, and let's make it a discussion rather than just like people blah, 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 blah. This year in 2025, my camp camped in Higher Love. And actually the price was about the same as it was last year, 2024 versus 2025. The reason why you do see 2025 as a little bit of a higher price is because I accidentally bought an additional GA car pass. It ended up working out for my group because, as you saw in the first vlog, Logan and I had to leave during the forest to go to a wedding and come back. And it helps to have that additional car in GA just for logistics for our group and everything. But without that, the price would have been just about exactly the same for Higher Love, which I can appreciate that they didn't hike up the prices 1,000% within 1 year. But I also need to speak to the fact that in purchasing tickets, they did not make it clear. So this year in 2025, they shifted the way that you purchase tickets just a little bit. As you can see by these screenshots, they separated the Higher Love campsite from the amount of wristbands, and therefore it wasn't very clear if you needed to add a car pass for your Higher Love site or not. And that's kind of why I accidentally bought another one. I don't know if they will change that for 2026, but keep that in mind. Try and make sure that you are going through the details of what is included in each individual camp option before you purchase. When I was buying the ticket, the countdown was on in the corner of my screen and it said like 3 minutes left to buy the tickets to secure them. And I was freaking out because usually, asterisks around usually, Electric Forest sells out pretty dang quick. And so I was freaking out. I didn't know if it was included. I didn't want to miss out on that. So I just accidentally purchased that extra pass. $85 I feel like is a lot to have for a general admission car pass, because how else are you going to camp in GA if not like by a car? I don't know. I feel like the camping situations and the way that they described that in purchasing tickets was a little bit silly this year. But like I said, it ended up working out for my crew. I also want to say I was not the only person that made that mistake. And that's why I feel like it definitely wasn't just my quick mistake. It was not very clear, because another person in my group, when she was buying her Electric Forest Higher Love camping pass, she also thought she had to add a car pass. It didn't make it very clear that the Higher Love site included a car pass. So definitely, if you are going to purchase tickets, try and read on the website all of those details and all the breakdown to see what is included. Like I said, I had asterisks around usually because this year, Electric Forest did not sell out. And you could tell, or at least I could tell because of my situation, that it wasn't sold out. And there's nothing wrong with that per se. But I will say that in my experience in online forums, on Reddit, in Facebook groups, a lot of people were giving pushback to the festival for the prices being insane. And I'm not saying this is a cheap festival by any means. And also people were disappointed with the lineup. In my opinion, the lineup isn't the be all end all, especially for this festival. If you saw my vlog from this year of the festival, there are so many other elements that make this festival special and magical and just fun, because there are so many side quests and exciting things to uncover and explore, art and activities and installations that you can interact with that make this a special festival. Truthfully, I would buy tickets before even seeing the lineup. And also, you can't please everyone, because in years past, I saw so many people in forums saying, book smaller artists. More small artists need this opportunity. Bring it back to the old days of the small artists and the jam bands. And then this year, when they had more jam bands and more smaller artists, people were complaining that the lineup sucked and they didn't see their favorite big artists. So I don't know. Again, you can't please everyone, and you have to make that decision for yourself if you think the lineup is good. More of the headliners, I feel like, were more jam bandy. I think they did a great variety of getting, they had progressive house, they had Tiesto, they had Sub Focus, they had drum and bass, Justice, Worship, Dimension, Louis the Child. Personally, I think they did a really good job of having a variety, and so many of the smaller artists were so cool to see. J. Rose Loops, Dixon's Violin, just like fun, smaller artists, and I really love that this festival is the perfect place to explore that. But a lot of people might not be open-minded in that way, but I definitely encourage you to be open-minded in that way. That way you can have a wonderful experience and it's not all based on the big names on the lineup. So those are just some of my general notes. I guess I now will go into like the cons or the, kind of less good things about the festival. And then I'll end up with the pros so that we can end on a high note, the things that I really enjoyed about the festival. So the cons, the things that I would love to change if I could. Let me talk about the food. Yes, I loved that there was a lot of food choices. There was all sorts of different vegan options, vegetarian options. I loved the acai bowls and the smoothies. Also a lot of, island noodles. They also had really creative stuff like hibachi and poke bowls and waffles and they had a great variety. But the prices, I'm sorry, $15 for a banana strawberry smoothie. It's bananas and strawberries. That cost $2 to make, and you're charging me $15. I understand that the vendors need to make money, but especially when security is trying to take away the food that you're bringing in from your campsite. Yes, that happened. I'll get to that in 2 seconds. You're forcing people to spend $100 a day on food, and that is not cool. That is not okay. You want to have a safe, healthy environment. Have accessible food, have some stands that are cheap food, or let people bring their food in. I'm sorry, ridiculous. $16 for a breakfast burrito, it's eggs and a tortilla. Come on. I could talk about that for a minute because that stresses me out. That makes me very upset. The food, while there was a lot of variety, it was way too expensive. And I guess that brings me right into my next part about, I have never seen this happen before. Never. But security, multiple times to multiple people in my group, were taking away their food in their backpacks as they walk into the festival grounds. Tell me why they took away granola bars. Okay. They took away my dad's sandwich. And they were trying really hard to take away nerds from my friend that he had just bought inside the festival. I don't remember why we had to run back to camp. It was to get a sweater or something. But they were fighting with him to take the candy that he just bought inside of the festival grounds and not let him bring them back in. They were all let me talk to a manager. I'm dude, it's a freaking candy this big. What is the issue? You want people to starve and die on your festival grounds? I know that's really dramatic, but come on. And I've never seen that before. In the past, you've always been able to bring in, trail mix and granola bars and sandwiches and anything that you bring from your camp. You're charging us $700 to camp in Higher Love, and you're going to take away my food, so then I additionally have to pay $100 a day on pizza? No, that is not cool. That is not okay. Why? Why do they do that? And they do that so that they can make more money. And that is not plur, okay? That's not taking care of each other, none of that. This might seem really dramatic, but this is the very basis of things. These are the basic human needs. Okay, and you're trying to capitalize on that and overcharge people. That's just not cool. That's not okay. So that. Also, and this might be nitpicky, at our campsite, in the camping sections, the water refill stations were very welly, very sulfury, and this could just be me coming from a very privileged background where I am used to fresh water that is not from a well. So this might just be me coming from a place of privilege, but it was just we've never had that in the past. That's the reason I'm bringing this up, is because it never tasted like sulfur in the past. The water from the free water stations. Inside the festival, it was fine, but at camp, it was just a little unpleasant, and it's never been an issue before. So I'm wondering why it was that way. I guess that's a little thing and I don't want to dwell on that too long. The communication and the security. I understand you want to keep a safe environment and I understand there has to be a level of security. Awesome. Why don't you communicate with each other? Let me give you an example. Over the weekend, my father had a messed up knee. As you saw me crying at the medical tent in the last vlog, he had to leave the festival in an ambulance and go to the hospital. He is okay. He has a staph infection in his knee. He is getting better. At the hospital, outside of the festival grounds, they had him create a follow-up appointment to follow up the day after to make sure to get tests and make sure everything was okay, blah, blah, blah. Doctor's orders, emergency, ambulance, okay? When he went to leave our campsite and go to the hospital with his own car, of course, they were taking pictures of his license plate and yelling and saying he couldn't leave, and if he's leaving, he can't come back in and all this stuff. Let me call a manager. Why is there no communication? Could the medical tent maybe have given him a doctor's note? Like, it's an emergency. This is like a health problem. Like, where is the disconnect? And I get it. They want to keep the festival grounds, safe. They don't want random people leaving and coming back and all of these things. But then create a system that works. And why is there no communication? They're radioing people, trying to get a manager, trying to get a supervisor, why couldn't they call medical tent? They had all of his information at the medical tent that he was taken in an ambulance, that they told him to follow up. They had that information, but no one's communicating. And I get it, because also a lot of these people working there are volunteers, but then train your volunteers correctly. If they're going to work a very serious job on your site and threaten people to not be able to come back after they paid $1,000 to be there by the end of the weekend, have there be some communication. That is another thing that stressed me out. Communicate with each other, have your security. And again, same thing with the bringing in food. There was clearly no clear communication, because at some point you could bring in your nerds and your granola bar, and then other times they're confiscating it. Make there be clear rules, and make them rules that make sense and take care of your festival goers, your attendees. So, your girl is heated, but I do have a lot of good things to say. This video is not just me complaining. I always want to be fair in my reviews. This is how we grow. This is everyone. There's always room for improvement. Okay. I'm trying to be as fair as possible. I'm just telling you my experience. Okay. Anyways, the bathroom situation. When you camp in Higher Love, basically what you're paying for is additional space for your campsite. So instead of camping directly behind your car, you camp next to your car. So you have a bigger space. Plus air-conditioned bathrooms and access to free showers. But what happens when you start using these showers that are made for Higher Love to sell them to GA? First of all, you get really long lines for the people who paid $200 extra, and also you run out of water. Your showers and your bathrooms and your sinks, you run out of water because you're overselling it to people who did not pay for that amenity. So out of all 5 days that I was there over the weekend, guess how many times I got to shower and or use the air-conditioned bathrooms? 1 shower and 1 time using the air-conditioned toilet. Now, will I ever make that mistake again? No, I will never pay more money for Higher Love ever again, because that was bullshit. You are taking the amenity that all of these people paid for and, again, exploiting us and exploiting GA, and it didn't make sense. So instead of having a separate place in GA where they can go purchase their $10 showers, no, you're sending them over to Higher Love to use up all the water and force the Higher Love people to stand in 3-hour lines to take a shower. Scam alert, scam alert. Yeah, don't do that. That was not cool. That was not cool. And so if I go to this festival again, it will be in general admission or group camping, because that shit was a scam. Maybe Good Life, but at that point, if I'm upgrading, I can't even say for sure if I'm going to get the amenities that I'm promised, that's not cool. Nope, sorry, you're not going to get my money, buddy. So I don't know exactly how many Higher Love tickets they sell, but it felt like there should be another location for the air-conditioned bathroom. So I'll put a screenshot of the map and I'll put a little dot where the showers and the air-conditioned bathrooms are for Higher Love. But for the amount of Higher Love tickets that you see on this map, it doesn't seem like the right amount. It just feels like maybe not another section of showers, Well, maybe if they're going to continue selling ours to GA, but at least have another trailer for the bathrooms, because again, it's an amenity that we were promised, and half the time we end up going in the sweaty porta potties anyway. So again, what's the point? Add some more toilets, please. And also, you guys, the merch was so cool, but it's so damn expensive. Like, I understand that they have to make money, but come on. $55 for a t-shirt? I'll wait for prize cart. And that will bring me over into the pro section. All right, so let's move into the highlight section, the good things, the things that I loved. And there is a lot of them, so don't you even worry. So one thing that I love about this festival is that there is something going on at all times. Like, I really appreciate that it's more than just the music. Like I kind of said at the beginning of this video, you know, there's interactive elements, there's other shows going on. You've got the instigators doing stuff all around, the Grand Artique, the trading post. There's all these things that you can really interact and engage with. And I really appreciate that. It makes it more than just a music festival. I also appreciate that there was a lot of water stations for free. And that is what I'm talking about, guys. That is caring for each other. I can think of off the top of my head, like 5 locations inside the festival grounds that you can stop and get water. And I love that. And that also decreases lines so that people can get water like pretty much immediately. I also think that the crowd control is pretty good in the sense of they have like 2 big names playing around the same time, but the sets don't necessarily end at the exact same time. So you don't have just mass exodus of every stage at every time. Also, inside of the festival, I appreciate that it seemed like they cleaned the porta potties pretty dang often. Like, you were never walking into one where there's like shit on the walls, and I appreciate that. I never went into any that did not have toilet paper, which I also appreciated. So it seemed like there was a lot of upkeep with that. For one, for sanitary reasons, and for 2, it just adds to the collective experience. You know, you're never really being like grossed out or feeling like disgusted. Okay, let's talk about the prize cart. I think this is a genius idea. Basically what prize cart is, if you're not aware, at the end of the night at each major stage, after the last set ends for the night, the prize cart comes out. It is literally a cart that's full of prizes, and they hand out garbage bags, and it's basically a competition. You want to run around the grounds and pick up as much garbage as possible from the ground. Now, the reason that this is genius, for one, you don't have to hire additional people to clean the grounds. Of course, they still have, you know, the cleaning crews and the ground control that take care of the festival grounds. You're basically saving money on people, or saving, you know, volunteer spaces, or allocating those resources to another stage or another area of the festival, because you're having the participants do it. And the second reason why this is genius is because the prizes they give out are unsold merch and things from previous years for the most part. For example, this shirt that I'm wearing, and also this shirt. This one is from 2023. The one I'm wearing is from 2024. It works out because I was there both of those years. So it's just like I got a souvenir in the future from the past. It's pretty cool. And I think that adds to the sustainability effort, because instead of throwing away the past year's shirts that were never sold, they're actually keeping them in rotation and gifting them. And I think that that's really cool. So not only are they cleaning up the festival grounds, they're saving money and saving resources, they also are giving away things that were already produced so that they don't end up in a landfill. I literally love this. I love it. And so I have, I think now, 4 shirts in total from Electric Forest from different years, and I never had to purchase one. I love that. Plus, I have a fan that has been so helpful because it gets hot. I also have won a beanie hat in the past. We've won like cases of Red Bull, which is cool. Something that they did this year that was new and different is this whole keys to the forest thing. And I wish that I could talk about it more, but I don't know enough about it, and I love it. It's a mystery, and it makes people want to go back. It makes people want to learn more about it, and it keeps the hype, right? So it's really smart in like a marketing standpoint, but also like it's interesting. It's something new, and I could be totally wrong. So if you know anything about the keys to the forest, please drop it in the comments. Basically, upon arrival, they were randomly like gifting wooden keys randomly to attendees showing up to the festival. And if you got a key, there was like a section, a little like booth somewhere in the back of the forest that was like, if you got a key, come here and you'll get like some sort of like prize or side quest or something along those lines. I don't exactly know anything more than that, but also like there was just all of these key motifs throughout the weekend. I know at the art bar at one point, we made like DIY little keys to be dropped into a bigger key that was hidden somewhere in the forest that you had to find. And I don't know exactly what they're doing with all of those keys by the end. Maybe next year something will come to life with that. But I just appreciated this because again, it's something new and different. Every year they change things in this festival. And like I said, it keeps it exciting, it keeps it fun, it keeps it fresh. It keeps the buzz going. Also, I really loved, one of the booths was by Electrolit, the brand. And I loved this little booth because every day from like morning to night, they were giving away free samples of electrolyte, so electrolyte water. And every time you'd go in there, they would say, take as many as you want. We just want to keep you hydrated. And they're just giving away electrolytes. And I loved that because it felt like they actually were caring for you. I know it's a brand and they're trying to sell you something, but really they were just genuinely giving out the electrolyte samples and keeping you hydrated. I also really appreciated the end overdose and sober spaces that were throughout the forest. It's always hard talking about this. In spaces like this, it's not uncommon for people to experiment with substances. Now, do I condone that? Not necessarily. Do I shame people for it or judge people for it? Absolutely not. But what I do appreciate is the spaces where we can learn about it in a safe environment. There are spaces where you can go and get certified on how to use Naxalone. They'll give it to you for free, or Narcan. And also spaces for people to be in an oasis if something bad is happening, or if your friend is going through something, or also that you're there and you're sober and maybe your friends aren't, but you want a safe space to just chill out and relax, meet other people that are sober. Like addiction is a real thing. And if you need some support and you're going through something, or you're sober and it's hard for you to be, like, I really appreciate that they have those spaces for people. I love that every year things are at least a little bit different. There's different art installations, there's different activities, activations, brand activations, sponsors, food options, stage designs. Every single year it's a bit of a different experience. You want to bring people back every year, and that's something that will encourage people to do so. I think the last thing that I want to talk about a little bit is that Insomniac no longer owns Electric Forest. Now, I do not know if this year was their last year owning Electric Forest, or if this year was the first year not being owned by Insomniac, but some changes, good or bad, that were this year or potentially in the years in the future could be because of the switchover of ownership. It's worth looking into. This year, I didn't feel like a ton of things were that different, but I think that potentially in the future things could change a lot. Since the beginning, even when Insomniac did own this festival, it still feels very individual. Back in the day, Electric Forest was known as Rothbury Fest, and obviously it has changed drastically since those days, but also has kept a lot of the same energy. Notably, the string cheese incident headlining every single year. I think a lot of times when ownership or leadership switches, a lot of things can be a little bit rocky for a little bit. I don't know if that has been this year, or if that will be next year, or if nothing will ever change because it's such an individual festival. But I remember even like in years past, looking on Insomniac's website, it's really hard to find that they own Electric Forest. And I think it's because probably in some sort of contract somewhere, when it was bought in the first place, they wanted to keep it individual and keep the heart of it. And if you saw my recent videos about Vans Warped Tour, Insomniac recently partnered with Vans Warped Tour and they collabed this year. Kevin Lyman, the creator of that festival, made sure to keep the heart of the festival, even when collaborating with a really big company. And I just hope that things stay that way. I hope that these smaller individual festivals and entities are able to keep their energy and keep their visions alive, even when partnering with these really major companies.
So here's a quick look at all the things I came home with this year. Honestly, I feel like it's a little bit smaller than in years past. It's not like I need more things, but I just love the gifting community, the trinket trading of the forest. So let's go through some highlights here. This is an EF 3D printed frog that I got from actually a friend of mine that I ran into in the forest. They printed a bunch of those. These are these beautiful handmade earrings. that I got at a workshop that I went to called Guided by Grief. This I actually got at the Trading Post. It's actually a sterling silver ring. This I also got from a good friend / cousin of mine. Shout out to Jenna. She made a bunch of these and she said this was the first one that she ever made because she only had one unicorn, so she remembers it. And I'm just honored to have gotten that. This, shout out to Stephanie, one of a wonderful woman that we met in the forest. She made a bunch of these like little clips. So beautiful. And she handed out a bunch of them to my squad while we were all hanging out. A couple of keys. This year, like the whole theme was like keys. I also found this during the prize cart on the ground. So that was a really cool find. And this guy was the first gift that I got this whole forest before we even went into the forest at camp. Okay, I also realized that there was actually more in a different pocket of my bag, but I didn't realize it till after I was editing, so this is what you'll see.
But I do think that brings us just about to the end of everything I need to talk about. Let me know in the comments where you camped, what your experience was like, what camp you're planning on doing next year. I really do think that if we go next year, I say if as if we're not, but that we'll be doing group camping because it just seems like easier because you can show up at any time and you're guaranteed that spot in your group. And I think that will save a lot of the headache of us trying to like meet up at the Walmart and follow each other in and all of that crap. So we'll see. And it might be cool to try something new for the channel as well. And make sure you're subscribed because there's a lot more videos and a lot more fun coming up this summer and beyond. Thank you so much for watching. I encourage you to take the leap, try a new festival, try a new camping, maybe at a festival, give that a try, and keep living large, and I'll catch you on the flip.